Welcome to the Back to Soul podcast. Here we will connect with our soul and discuss what the journey home looks like. Inspired by my own true spiritual awakening, I'm your host, Danyell, better known as Coach Danyell. I'm a life coach specializing in wellness and finance. I've searched, I've Googled, but I couldn't find the answers I was looking for on this journey. So hopefully listening to this podcast will help you come home, back to soul. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for weekly episodes. Welcome. This is episode 3 of the Back to Soul podcast. Thank you for joining. If you've migrated here from the Find Your Positivity podcast, again, just welcome. This podcast here goes a little deeper into my spiritual journey, and we'll probably add in a little daily culture, some popular news, but this is mainly about spirituality and just navigating that journey. It's important to know that when you start something new, it takes time to adjust and find a sweet spot. So that's exactly what happened with the other podcasts, and I really wanted to just dive deeper. And so that's why this one was started. Here on the Back to Soul podcast, we will speak often about books and how they can help us to navigate this journey back home, back to our soul. I've partnered with Audible, who has thousands of titles to choose from, including audiobooks, podcasts, and groundbreaking originals, and just so much more. Plus, the Audible app makes things so much easier to listen to anytime and anywhere. So to continue your journey back home, back to your soul, go ahead and download the Audible app. Also, let me mention, new members try Audible free for 30 days. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Coach Danyell, CoachDanyell. Right before I started my spiritual awakening, I guess we can say pre-awakening, I started receiving visions of all of these things I wanted to do. It was out of the blue. I had a long list of all of these things I wanted to accomplish. They were big goals. A couple were publishing a book and having a podcast. There's a long list of things, and at the time, I didn't see myself as having the means or the knowledge to accomplish any of those things on the list. Fast forward a year later, I've knocked out most of it. When I say God has a plan for me, God has a plan for all of us. Take a look at what's happening all around you. Things are changing so rapidly. The world of yesterday is gone, and there's another movement beginning. I'm sure recently you've seen the news about shooting down the UFOs. There used to be a time where you would never hear the government or the main news channels talk about things like that. Things are very much changing. Another thing is open AI. We are in a progressive time, and there's a future that's all about artificial intelligence, including tech jobs, coding, copywriting, just so many things that AI is going to be accomplishing. Where does that leave manual workers? Businesses are putting billions and billions of dollars into these programs. It's definitely something to take notice of. As you listen to the Back to Soul podcast, don't forget I am a life coach, and I'm here to help you succeed and excel in your everyday life. I've been in those tough situations, those situations where you need someone to talk to, you need a friend to console you. I can be that person for you. I can help to motivate you, empower you, and help you to hold accountability. You are not alone, and help is here. Whether you're needing advice on budgeting, time management, accountability, staying inspired, or just someone to talk to, I'm here. Use code POSITIVITY to save 50% on your intro coaching session. My promise, if I'm not a great fit as your coach, then the session is free. Book today at CoachDanyell.com. Energy is just moving quickly. The days are going by quicker. So what does it mean? I think God has a way of cutting through all of the noise and the extraness. When I revisit my spiritual awakening, I was so isolated. God began to cut people and things out of my life left and right. I didn't have time to miss anyone or anything because it was just on to the next chapter. People's true colors began to show, and I didn't have any choice but to take heed and watch all of this come to light. It was strange for me because I really felt like I was in a time where I was at the peak. I felt like it was a peak. I was making significant income. I thought I had built a nice soul tribe. I just thought I was progressing and I thought I was thriving. But God said no. God said, here's the truth, and you should be loved unconditionally. At the time, I didn't truly know what was happening. And so I've come to understand that because I didn't love myself unconditionally, I didn't know it was fake. A lot of my relationships were one-sided. The emotions and respect just wasn't being reciprocated. Cutting through all of the BS was painful. It was very painful, but it was also very eye-opening. At that time, I started doing affirmations to help lift my confidence and lift my self-love and self-worthiness, and it worked, and it continues to work for me. I think sometimes we're in these relationships, we're deep into these relationships, whether platonic or romantic, and we only want to remember or think about the happy times. And we try to block out anything that's negative, anything that's toxic, any kind of ill intent, anything that we've witnessed that does not make us feel good or bring the relationship to a positive level, we block it out. Having certain friends and you know that you are being backstabbed, you know that you're being used in whatever ways, being used to level up, being used to reach a certain peak, you know you're being used for something. Or maybe you're just being used to boost their ego. You're just there to boost their own appeal. As a friend, as a person, I love to give others compliments. I love to inspire. I love to motivate. These are part of the reasons I became a life coach, and I have 2 different podcast shows. I love to just uplift people. However, what God revealed to me is that I deserve to be with and around others that can reciprocate it. And to be honest, I haven't met many people that give out the love, the appreciation, the motivation, the inspiration that I put out into the world. So I settled. So what does that mean? What does it mean, and what happens when you're around people that aren't reciprocating and you continue to fill their cup? You are drained. There's nothing left to fill your own cup at the end of the day. Mentally and emotionally, I had nothing left. After being around certain people for a small amount of time, I was so drained and I just had nothing left. So God said it was time to let it go. Hard to cut those people out of my life, but God said it had to be done, and I had to be accepting of that. When you begin to cut out unnecessary people and things, there's a need to maintain that consistency. Once you realize that you deserve all of these amazing things and it should be reciprocated, then you need to have a cutting off point. There needs to be a level of, if you can't reciprocate this, then we can't be friends on that level. It definitely sounds harsh, but I think that's needed. Once you know your worth and you know what you are deserving of, you have to place those barriers, and that's part of having boundaries, and that's needed. In order to continue on this upward movement for myself, I've had to establish a certain routine. So certain staples in my life that are needed to remind me that I am worthy of love. I am deserving of love. But it reminds me that it starts with me. Am I loving myself unconditionally? Am I recognizing my worth? So my staples include writing, journaling. I have a gratitude journal. I make sure that I have alone time with God every day. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, I still need a moment to connect with God without worrying about anything else. And it's not a time of prayer. I think prayer time is something different. This is quiet time alone with God to just listen and to ask God what's needed of me. And that's important because I think that's completely different from my gratitude journal. It's completely different from any goals that I have set. Also, movement. Even if I'm not exercising for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I make sure that I get some sort of movement every day. Even if it is just 15 or 20 minutes, the body needs that movement to work out that extra energy. So I know if my mind is racing, it feels good to run on the treadmill or walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes just to exercise some of that excess energy. Another thing is going outside. I don't think people talk about this enough. I don't hear it enough, but sunlight, moonlight, it's important. I think it helps to regulate the body when I'm outside for a little bit. My 2 final things would be making sure I devote time to my purpose every day. Even if it is just my podcast, writing my script, or spending time in prayer, just praying for others, just sending out love, light, and healing energy. Whatever your purpose is, I think it's going to be different, whatever activities that you do. But for me, being able to pray for others and connect with God in those moments, that's part of my purpose, is to send out love and light. And the final thing is making sure I do something creative every day. I think I've mentioned it before. I'm a writer, I'm an author. So for me, writing scripts, writing poetry, writing novels, anything of that nature, I love to write. So that's part of me just getting something creative out into the world that doesn't have to do with my purpose. It's something completely separate. Or just doing something that's going to expand my mind. I feel like it's important to learn something new. It's important to step outside of your comfort zone. And you should do that every day. Even if it's something small, studying about other cultures, other languages, something very, very small, learning a new word for the day. You should always be in a mode of wanting to learn, wanting to grow. I think it's just us as humans. I think we need that. And I think society has this thing where you reach a certain age and you retire and that's it. You go and you vacation, you do this and that. But there should never be a stopping point when it comes to learning and wanting to grow. Regardless of your age or your culture, of any of those things, just as humans, we should be learning and growing. And that's okay. People are going to say, hey, you've changed. You're not that same person. The answer is yes, I have. We're not meant to stay the same. Change and growth is needed, and it's inevitable. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to be notified for weekly episodes. Also, this doesn't have to be goodbye. Check out the Find Your Positivity podcast. It's available on all platforms. Daily episodes are posted for your affirmations and your intention settings of the day. See you soon.